Do you see any of the real Diana in Meghan? Did you?
No.
Really?
No. Oh, sorry.
Picture this. It's a random Thursday night.
He used to charge almost $30,000.
Someone is just flipping through TV channels. Nothing really interesting is on.
Is why she was making good money.
And suddenly,
Early days, she was totally reliant on Soho House to pay for her travel, to pay for her accommodation.
then Piers Morgan pulls out a pile of photos that look like they came straight from Meghan Markle's personal emergency stash.
I don't want to be doing another bloody segment on Meghan Markle.
The sort of photos no one thought would show up on live television. And right then, viewers across the place started raising their eyebrows.
And then the rest of it was, and all the racism claims turned out to be bullshit. The mental health claims were all of it was bullshit, designed to damage and attack the royal family, the monarchy.
The story people thought they understood suddenly didn't seem so straightforward anymore. For years, Meghan Markle built her public image around the idea that she was just a regular girl trying to get by in Los Angeles. But those photos told a completely different story.
Once a Soho House basic, always a Soho House basic.
The scenes felt less like a struggling actress running from one audition to the next, and more like someone moving with ease through exclusive events surrounded by powerful and wealthy circles.
Are there any fans of Meghan Markle in tonight? There is one lone hand has raised.
Subversive.
Actually, that is one more than I expected.
What really stood out was that none of those high-profile connections ever seemed to come up in interviews about her early path. There wasn't a single mention of those rooms, those parties, or the networks around them. So when those images appeared on the screen, viewers could almost sense the shift happening in real time. The carefully polished public image suddenly looked unstable, like pieces of a puzzle that no longer lined up.
It was planned from the beginning. She denied being interested in the royal family, which she totally was. I know someone who knows the ex-husband who said she had a vision board with Prince Harry.
And this was the part people talked about the most. Meghan Markle has often spoken about being open and honest. Yet over the years, certain parts of her past seemed to quietly fade out of view. Old social media posts disappeared. Photos from certain events were gone.
Makes them newsworthy. So you either then ignore what people are talking about and debating and having all the silly...
Even some people who had known her in the earlier days suddenly went completely silent. Then, out of nowhere, images many assumed would never appear again were now being shown to millions watching from home. The truth didn't trickle out slowly. It exploded. One moment the story seemed under control, the next it felt like the lid had blown wide open. And the wildest part, Piers Morgan didn't even need dramatic commentary. The photos were speaking for themselves. Each image landed harder than any speech could.
She's living the life she probably wanted all along.
Yes.
A life of unparalleled luxury and riches that she got by marrying her handsome British prince.
So get ready, because this story goes far beyond the usual royal gossip. We're talking about strategic networking, friendships that seemed to disappear once they were no longer useful, and parts of the past that many believe were quietly pushed out of view. The studio lights were already bright when Piers Morgan leaned forward, grabbed those glossy photos and set off what felt like a full media eruption right there on air. No drawn-out build-up, no dramatic pause, nothing flashy. He simply lifted the images and held them up with a cold, steady calm that somehow made the moment feel even louder.
She's a piece of Klingon, like she clings to somebody who can get her there. So Meghan manages to befriend one person of a very popular group, and then that person introduces her to the others. And because she's being brought in by somebody they trust, she's welcome.
It looked like someone finally opening a file they had kept tucked away for a long time. And the reaction was immediate chaos. Social media blew up within seconds. Hashtags started trending faster than producers could even respond. Clips from that moment spread everywhere, racking up millions of views before the broadcast had even wrapped up. But what made the situation so intense was this. These weren't random pictures from a college party or some blurry night out with friends. The photos pointed to something much bigger. They showed a lifestyle surrounded by elite rooms, powerful circles, and exclusive gatherings. The kind of places people don't just wander into by accident. That image didn't line up with the familiar story of a modest actress quietly chasing auditions in Hollywood. Instead, it showed someone moving through spaces filled with influence and opportunity. The kind of access that usually takes strong connections and very careful networking to build. The internet noticed right away. People began pulling up old timelines, comparing past interviews, digging through earlier stories, and placing details side by side that suddenly looked different under a brighter light. Questions started appearing everywhere. Many of them didn't have simple answers. But what really made those photos explosive wasn't just what they showed on the surface, it was what many people believed they hinted at behind the scenes. Another detail raised even more eyebrows. Meghan Markle's legal team has a reputation for reacting quickly to negative headlines. They've pushed back against stories, answered criticism, and defended her image many times before. But when these photos began circulating, the reaction was completely different. No firm denials, no loud statements, just silence. And when someone who usually handles media fights like open warfare suddenly steps back, people start watching very closely. But the real twist in this story wasn't only the photos. It was the history between Meghan Markle and Piers Morgan himself. Years before the global headlines and royal drama, the two reportedly met for drinks at a pub in Kensington. At the time, it looked like a friendly meeting, but according to Morgan, communication stopped not long after. Within a day, Meghan was reportedly seen with Prince Harry at Soho House, stepping into circles far more powerful than anything a casual media friendship could offer. That moment stayed with Morgan for years. Then came the Oprah Winfrey interview. Meghan's claims during that broadcast triggered one of the biggest media storms in recent memory. Morgan responded with sharp criticism. The debate exploded across television and social media, and the situation eventually led to his dramatic exit from Good Morning Britain. Reports later suggested that Meghan herself filed a formal complaint about his comments, turning a media clash into something much more personal. For Morgan, those leaked images weren't just another piece of television content. To him, they looked like ammunition in a fight that had been building for years.
We have Andrew, with whom looks like Marcus Anderson. This is in 2001, when Meghan Markle would have allegedly been on third year. Meghan Markle hardly spent any time at Northwestern University. According to people, she got started her yachting days, and she never stopped, really. I don't think any of her boyfriends knew about it, but Meghan Markle was known as a hardcore yacht partying person.
This didn't look like some random media clash. It felt more like a personal showdown with someone he believed had carefully built public sympathy while quietly keeping certain parts of the past out of view. From his perspective, those photos challenged a story that millions of people had accepted without ever seeing the whole picture. But this is where things start to get even more interesting. Piers Morgan wasn't the only person who could have access to images like that. There's another name that quietly shows up in the background of Meghan Markle's rise and the elite social circles around it. Most people have never even heard of him. That name is Marcus Anderson, the longtime global membership director connected to Soho House. On the surface, Meghan has always described him as simply a close friend. But when people began lining up timelines, the pattern looked far more strategic than casual. Marcus didn't just show up once or twice. Somehow, he seemed to appear in nearly every major city tied to Meghan's life. Toronto, London, Los Angeles. At each major turning point, his presence showed up right alongside big shifts in her career and social world. That's what made observers curious.
How stupid is this man that he actually believes it?
Because of his role at Soho House, Marcus Anderson had entry into extremely exclusive settings: private lounges, invitation-only gatherings, celebrity events, guest lists that almost never reach the public eye. For someone trying to build a powerful public image, having a gatekeeper like that could be very valuable. Some insiders quietly suggested that Marcus may have been more than just a friend. According to them, he understood exactly how elite social circles operate: the right rooms, the right introductions, the right timing within powerful networks. That kind of access can move someone from being a working actress into spaces filled with investors, celebrities, and eventually even royal connections. And there was another detail that made the situation even more intense. Many of the photos Piers Morgan showed seemed to come from extremely private environments. places where cameras rarely make it past security unless someone inside the circle allows it. That raised a question people kept asking. If those pictures came from such exclusive settings, who actually released them? Some observers wondered if someone from Meghan Markle's extended network had finally decided to share images that had stayed hidden for years. Others believed the source had to be someone with the same kind of access to those private events. Either way, the idea that the photos came from deep inside those social circles made the story feel even more dramatic. And once those images started spreading online, another rumour connected to Meghan's past suddenly came back to life. For years, internet forums had whispered about so-called yacht party stories tied to elite social gatherings. Those rumours floated around online discussions, but rarely reached mainstream coverage. Now, with the photos circulating everywhere, people began bringing those conversations back again. Those rumours didn't describe the typical Hollywood audition grind. Instead, they talked about ultra-wealthy social settings where private yachts sometimes hosted networking events for business leaders, celebrities, and rising entertainment figures. In those circles, an invitation could mean access to powerful contacts and opportunities that didn't exist through the normal industry path. Online investigators and documentary creators had already looked into similar patterns involving luxury travel events where actresses and influencers attended exclusive gatherings under the banner of hospitality. During those discussions, Meghan Markle's name occasionally appeared in speculation threads. Some viral photos claiming to show her at certain yacht events were later proven to feature completely different women. Still, the timelines and travel patterns kept the conversation going. That's what fueled the frenzy across social media. People started comparing past interviews with travel photos, luxury destinations, and stories about summers spent in Mediterranean hotspots. Questions came quickly. If someone was truly living a modest, struggling actor lifestyle at the time, how did those luxury trips happen? Who arranged them? Who covered the cost of the travel? Supporters argued that those trips could easily come from networking, friends, or professional opportunities. Critics believed the timeline still raised questions. Either way, the renewed speculation pushed Meghan's carefully shaped narrative back under a microscope. Every old photo, every event appearance, every connection, all of it was suddenly being looked at again in public. And just when the speculation seemed like it couldn't get any louder, Prince Harry unexpectedly added another twist to the discussion. When he released his memoir Spare, the intention was clearly to share an emotional and personal story about his life and his relationship with Meghan. But some readers noticed that certain details in the book seemed to reopen questions instead of settling them. In several parts of the book, Prince Harry described Soho House as a place where Meghan Markle seemed very comfortable. He mentioned private dinners, quiet corners where they met early in their relationship, and staff members who appeared to recognise her usual routines. For most couples, those kinds of details might sound romantic and completely normal, just two people spending time together in a favourite spot. But critics noticed something that didn't quite line up. In earlier interviews, Meghan had suggested she rarely went to Soho House and mostly stopped by for convenience while travelling. Yet Harry's descriptions painted a different picture. He described someone who already knew the environment extremely well. Someone who moved through those spaces with total familiarity long before their relationship became public. That single inconsistency lit the spark under a pile of questions that had already been building for years. Suddenly, people began looking again at Meghan's rapid rise. From a working television actress to someone moving through some of the most exclusive social circles in the world, observers kept asking the same question. How did she gain such deep access to a private club known for turning away even major celebrities? And why did her social network look so polished, so wealthy, and so strategically connected right from the beginning? Readers going through Harry's memoir started noticing patterns Meghan had never explained publicly. His description sounded honest and personal, but that honesty created an unexpected contrast. On one side was the humble, relatable image Meghan often presented during interviews. On the other side were the glimpses inside elite spaces Harry casually described in his own words. Whether intentional or not, those details stirred curiosity about how those two pictures fit together. Then critics started linking the passages from the memoir with the photos Piers Morgan had shown on television. When those two things collided, the conversation only grew louder. And while the internet debated every detail, Meghan's reaction to the entire situation was something people noticed right away. There wasn't one. For a public figure known for carefully managing her public narrative, the silence stood out more than any statement could have. In the past, Meghan and her team have moved quickly when media stories seemed inaccurate. Legal complaints, official statements, corrections delivered through representatives. Those responses often appeared within hours whenever headlines crossed the line. But when the leaked photos began circulating and commentators started questioning the story around them, the reaction looked completely different. No clear denial, no direct clarification. Not even the usual sources close to Meghan pushing back against the claims. Instead, everything went quiet. And that silence caught public attention immediately. People online began asking the obvious questions. If the photos were fake, why not say that? If they were being misunderstood, why not explain the context? Meghan Markle's team had pushed back on far smaller controversies before, so the sudden lack of response created a huge vacuum. And in the age of social media, a vacuum never stays empty for long. It quickly fills with theories, speculation, and endless debate. Within hours, the internet had turned that silence into one of the loudest parts of the entire story. Media analysts quickly stepped into the discussion. Some argued that responding directly might accidentally validate the photos and give them even more attention. Others believed the Sussex public relations team could have been scrambling behind the scenes, trying to calculate the bigger risk. Was it safer to confront the leaks head-on, or stay quiet and hope the storm faded away? Either way, ignoring the situation didn't calm things down. If anything, it made the mystery feel even larger. Once the internet senses a mystery, people start digging. As viewers looked more closely at timelines and past interviews, some commentators began pointing out what they believed was a pattern of reinvention. Long before Meghan ever stepped into royal life, critics said she had already reshaped parts of her public identity several times. Certain chapters seemed to fade away. Older blog posts disappeared. References to past relationships or lifestyle moments appeared to quietly vanish as her public role changed. One period that kept coming back into the conversation was the Soho House era. For some observers, that chapter showed a version of Meghan that didn't fully match the widely shared story of an ordinary woman who unexpectedly fell in love with a prince. That contrast kept pulling attention back to those earlier connections and social circles, which is why these leaked photos landed differently for many people. For some viewers, they weren't just random pictures from old events. They looked like pieces of a larger puzzle. A reminder that public figures sometimes reshape their stories as their lives evolve and their audiences grow. Now, with another wave of resurfaced photos, old connections, and revived debates spreading across the internet, curiosity is rising again. Supporters defend Meghan and say the scrutiny is unfair. Critics argue that unanswered questions keep the conversation going. And every quiet response, every missing detail, and every resurfacing photo only seems to push the discussion even further into the spotlight.